Good morning, kids. Today we're going to do some reading work, and this is one of our first reading lessons. And it should be pretty easy because we worked on it last year as well. First, I'm going to go over the rationale, like why we're doing this lesson. And at the end, I'm going to go over our goal. So what we should have accomplished when doing this lesson. So why we are doing this lesson. So studying the characteristics of specific fiction genres like fantasy, realistic fiction, folktale, and historical fiction, my favorite. Helps student know what to expect when reading and increases comprehension. We're doing this because it's going to let you know what to expect in the book and it's going to help you understand the book. Okay? So, these are all books that some which we've read and some which we're going to explore throughout the year. We have an author study by Janelle Cannon, which is Stella Luna. We're actually going to peek at that book today. We have Kindness, which is our overall theme. The Can Man, we had Mrs. G read that to us. We have folk tales such as Ming Lo. We have expository nonfiction, like the story Bats. They give us a lot of information. We have biographies about somebody. We have stories about animals, and we have like hybrid text, stories about multiple things. A lot of different books we're about to explore, and they're all really great books. I want to ask you a question, and I'm going to type it in here as we're talking. So just 1 minute as I get a new slide up. Here we go. We'll move this here. And my question is, how do you know that a book is fiction? Fiction equals fake. How do you know a book is fiction? I want you to think about that. How do you know that answer? When you're looking at a book, how do you know it's fake? We are going to look at this book today. It's called Stella Luna, which is right here. Stella Luna. This book is fantasy. So when I think of fantasy, I think about things that are not real. Okay? So we have, wrong one. We have fantasy. We're going to just peek at this book, and I want you to think of characteristics that show you that it's fantasy. And we're not going to read the whole book, but we're just going to peek at certain pieces. So look at the title, Stella Luna.
Wrapping her wings about her, she clutched the thin branch, trembling with cold and fear.
Right here, I want you to notice it says mother. Stella Luna squeaked. Where are you? Can animals talk in real life? No. That could be a characteristic of a fantasy book. When animals talk, because animals can't talk in real life. Let's keep looking at this book.
Open your wings, get ready to jump, and...
So animals are talking again here. And let's keep peeking throughout the book. Again, they're talking. So we know that a fantasy book like Stella Luna, animals talk, but animals also act like people. They have human characteristics, like they're talking, they're having feelings a certain way. And that is all a characteristic of a fantasy story. Let's keep going. We're going to look at the Can Man now, okay? This one is realistic fiction. Realistic fiction. So it's a real fake story. What? It's like it could happen, but it's not real. So like if we're telling a story that might or that could happen one day, that's like a realistic fiction. We're going to peek at this, and I want you to think about what makes a realistic fiction story. Where fantasy animals were talking, that couldn't happen in real life. So no animals are going to be talking here, but let's see. And you guys already read this with Mrs. G. Here's the Can Man, a part of it.
A few blocks from the park, Tim stopped in to see Jamal at Bunu's Bakery.
Okay, so they are stopping in at a bakery. We see the setting. We see a kitchen and some conflict. We see someone helping out another person. We see, again, someone helping maybe a problem. And this is all the Can Man story that we have already read. So let's think. Realistic fiction has to do with real what? Real people, real setting where they are, real problems. Realistic fiction, the characters, the setting, and the problems could happen in real life, right? So backtrack. Fantasy, animals are talking, cannot happen. Realistic fiction, not a true story, but it could happen. Now we're going to go to one tricky one. This is called folktale. Folktale is tricky for a couple of reasons. We're going to look at the book. Ming Lo, where's our title page? Ming Lo Loves the Mountain. And when we look at the title here, what do you notice? Let's keep looking. We see people hanging from a tree. We see people talking with each other, begging for each other. And
again for many hours.
We weren't able to read this book, but I want you to look at this picture. Right here, this man right here is tricking him. Okay? Wonder why he's tricking him. There's also moments that are repeating throughout the story. The key is constantly going back to him. In this one, and it's kind of challenging because we weren't able to read the entire book yet, just because it's so early in the year, but later in the year, you'll be able to read this and remember, oh, that was a folk tale. A folk tale is a pretend story that cannot happen in the real world. Okay? So it's a fake story that cannot happen, where realistic fiction is a fake story that could happen. You see how those two are different? In here, there is a lot of repetition. So for example, he is constantly going back to that man to talk to him about things. There is repetition. And then he goes back to the mountain and back and forth. Then, sometimes characters trick each other. So in folk tales, we think of trickster characters. And that is a term that you know from second grade. So, overall, we have come up with 3 different stories that we may or may not have read already, and the kind of fiction or fake stories that they are. Fantasy, animals talk. Realistic fiction, fake stories that could happen in real life. And folk tale, fake stories that cannot happen. So we did our rationale, and our goal, what we should have completed, is that we should understand that there are different types of fiction texts and that they have different characteristics. Done. Good job, guys. For your reading lesson today, I want you to give me a thumbs up, thumb sideways, or thumbs down, a picture of that, on how you feel about these texts that we went over. Do you think that you would be able to tell me a fantasy story when an animal talks? Thumbs up, thumb sideways, or thumbs down? Do you think that you could tell me a realistic fiction, a fake story that could happen? Would you be able to identify that for me? So in your reading homework today, you're going to give me a thumbs up, sideways, or down in picture form. So just take a picture of yourself with your thumb and then hit that space bar. All right, friends. That is it for today, and you have a good day.